Story time about how my baby daddy ruined my pregnancy. So a little background information. I was 18 years old and I had just graduated high school. After my ex and I broke up, that's when I met my baby daddy, who we are going to call Mark. He had graduated high school the year before my freshman year in high school. So there was quite a bit of an age gap. I always had a little bit of a crush on him, but I never thought anything of it because he was literally a senior in high school while I was in middle school. So one day him and I hang out and I decided that I was not going to do the nasty with him because I did not want to get ghosted right away after. Been there, done that. But sadly, this is easier said than done. 2 weeks later, him and I are still doing the nasty and talking when all of a sudden he says, I think we should slow things down.
Wait, who?
Like, oh, okay, now you think we should slow things down. Pretty sure that seems a little ass backwards, but okay. Sure, bud. A week later, my stepmom and I are talking and I low-key let it slip that my period was late.
Oh, hell no.
And not just like a day or two late, 5 days late.
Go home and get the gun.
So, you know, we stop at the nearest convenience store and we pick up a pregnancy test. I take the test and then she gave me a hug, reassuring me that everything was gonna be okay. All I could do was cry because, as I said earlier, I'm only 18 years old. I just graduated high school. I felt like all of those plans that I had for myself in the future were just ripped out of my hands, crumpled up, thrown in the trash, and lit on fire. So my parents end up taking me to Mark's house. I show him the pregnancy test and all of a sudden he starts freaking out. So then he tells me it's up to me whether I want to keep it or not. Like, yeah, I know. And we start to Google where I can go to get an abortion because guess what? Just guess. Where do I live? Texas. And what was my luck? Texas had just overturned Roe v. Wade the week before. And it would be expensive to travel somewhere. So obviously we decided not to do that either. Well, fast forward to November, my birthday month, eh?
Girl, shut the fuck up!
Anyway, so like I said, fast forward to November. So one day I'm at work and earlier Mark had told me that he was going to go to his brother's house. And since I was at work, I didn't care until, dun dun dun, one of my friends, my work friends, convinced me to check and see if he was where he said he was. I swear, it's always the work friends that have like the best intuition. Like if they tell you your man is cheating, he's probably cheating. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, something was a little bit sus about the fact that he was going to hang out with his nephew super late. Yeah, shit just like low-key wasn't adding up. I drive past his brother's house and what do you know? He isn't there.
Don't be shocked. You're shocked? You're shocked?
So now I am blowing this motherfucker's phone up. After what feels like forever, he finally answers the damn phone. And I'm like, hey, I know you're not at your brother's house. Where the fuck are you? And he confesses to being at this girl Hannah's house. He is swearing up and down that nothing happened with this girl Hannah.
You lying? Yeah.
I believe him. I let it go because he tells me that he loves me and he wants to make things work.
Dumbass bitch.
So 4 days later, while he's at work, I realized that this tool bag left his Apple Watch at home and that hoe had "go through me bitch" written all over it. So what did I do? I went through that shit and I found some very raunchy text messages between him and Hannah. They had been talking about how much they wanted each other and he had gotten mad at her for not wanting to do the nasty with him. On the screen are the receipts. I go psycho. After I confront him, he begs me not to leave him. And you know, he swears he'll never do it again. He lied.
Got him!
Turns out that he had been asking other girls for nudes and sending nudes to them. It caused my body so much stress that I literally had to have an emergency C-section due to how much stress my body and baby was under. Him and I aren't together anymore, but we still live in the same house. We actually sleep in separate bedrooms. He is an amazing father, but as a significant other, absolutely not. That man is garbage. Story time about how I caught my teachers doing the nasty in the girls' bathroom. So a little background information. I was 14 years old and in 9th grade, and we're just gonna get straight into it. So the one day while I was at school, I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom, and as I'm walking up towards the bathroom, you know how school bathrooms or any public bathroom in general, like it echoes? Yeah, well, as I got closer to the bathroom, I hear quiet grunting and heavy breathing. But of course, I thought that someone was just going number 2, okay? I did not think anything of this because duh, what else would be happening in a school bathroom? Anyway, so like I said, I walk in not thinking anything of this, and then bam, I see my history and biology teacher doing it in the open stall. The open stall. Like, come on guys, it is bad enough. Y'all are doing this in a public bathroom on school property where there are hundreds of minors walking around, but in the open stall, y'all need to have some class. So obviously when I see them, I like gasp. I'm like, oh, because walking into a school bathroom, that is not what I expect to see, nor do I want to see that. So then Mr. C hurries up, pulls his pants up, and then just sits on the toilet. And then my bio teacher, Miss Annabelle, she turns like bright red and she's trying to cover herself, her whole body with her hands, like girly pop. We already established that this is very immoral / disgusting / downright foul as f***. But you really just have to take all of your clothes off. All of them. Not only that, but Miss Annabelle over here is f***ing married. Like, girl, shame on you. Anyway, so for some reason, the first thing that I thought to say was, I'm gonna tell your husband. Even though I knew I wasn't gonna do shit. But it's literally the only thing that I could think to say in this moment. Well then, Mr. C jumps off the damn toilet, and you guys will never guess what his first thought to do is. Is it to try to de-escalate the situation? No. Is it to try to bribe me? No. Guess again. Run? Never mind, I'm just gonna f***ing tell you. He turns to her and starts crying. Not about the fact that his ass was about to be fired. No. Instead, he's like, do you love me?
Be fucking for real.
She did not seem to give a fuck about him, which go off sis, because you need to be more worried about how you're gonna pay them bills without a job. Anyway, so yeah, you know, she's hurrying up, putting her clothes on, he's crying, and then finally they both direct their attention towards me, and then they corner me and start threatening me. They're like, if you tell anybody about this, we're gonna make sure that we make the rest of your high school experience a living hell, blah, 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 this, that, and the next. Like, okay, fight for the bag. But at the same time, y'all keep digging yourselves a deeper grave. I mean, shit, like, you do you, but at the same time, like, girl and sir, get it together. Anyway, so as a freshman, like, I'm scared as like, I didn't know what that meant, and I was not about to find out. So, obviously, I tell them what they want to hear, and then finally they leave, and my crybaby ass starts having a fucking panic attack. Okay, actually though, like, I'm not a crybaby. I was just threatened by 2 grown-ass adults. Also, I wasn't even sure if anybody would believe me. But then I did remember that this is school, and there are cameras everywhere, because duh, it's the 21st century, and we have weirdos and psychos out here doing shit they're not supposed to do. Cough, cough, Miss Annabelle and Mr. C. Anyway, so I'm crying the whole walk back to class, and when I walked in, the teacher ran over and she's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? What happened? And then I asked her if we could talk outside because I did not want to say what I just saw in front of the whole class. Also, I was low-key hesitant to tell anybody because Miss Annabelle had 3 kids and a husband, so I didn't want to rip her family apart. But then again, I decided not to give a because sis should have thought about them kids before she chose dick over them. Yeah, anyways. So then after I tell her, she immediately gets a teacher to cover the class and she takes me to the guidance office. Could y'all imagine if this teacher was friends with those other teachers? Like, I wonder if this teacher still would have told anybody else what happened. Cause you know how like you want to save your friends sometimes, you know, Captain Save-A-Ho type shit. Anyway, so they called both of them down and I had to tell the whole situation again in front of them. Thankfully, security stood next to me because I was scared shitless from the threats that they made towards me. Well, baby, the cameras do not lie. They were caught in 4K doing shit they weren't supposed to be doing. After this, both of them were fired and my parents decided to take me out of that school because they were not very thrilled at the fact that I was threatened by 2 teachers. Story time about how I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me with his homeboy. So a little background information, I was 18 and in my senior year of high school. I met my boyfriend Kevin in our junior year and then we started dating our senior year of high school. We had a really good relationship and we would talk almost 24/7. We would text each other all throughout class, we would call each other every night, stay on the phone for hours. We would even skip classes together and I thought that we were deeply in love. The only time that we wouldn't hang out was whenever his best friend needed him. Like, he would skip dates that we had planned and stuff like that. And I honestly just thought that he was being a good friend. But my best friend Taylor suspected that he might secretly be gay and cheating on me with his best friend. And I personally thought the only reason why she thought this was because his best friend was openly gay. But I didn't believe this because him and I were also intimate with each other. But then I started noticing some really weird stuff. Like the one day while we're sitting at lunch, Kevin and his best friend are sitting next to each other and I see them holding hands under the table. I asked him about this. He said it was because his best friend had social anxiety. Fast forward, the one time we're all at this party and I saw them kiss. Like part 2 about how I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me with his homeboy. So like I said, the one time I see them holding hands under the table, and whenever I asked my boyfriend why he was doing that, he was like, oh, it's because my best friend has social anxiety. And I'm like, okay. And then fast forward, we're all at this party and I see them kissing. And when I confronted him about it, he was like, oh, like we just like to play pranks like that sometimes. And I believed him because I really didn't think that my boyfriend was cheating on me with his homeboy. So fast forward to his birthday. I wanted to surprise him, so I went to his house, and to my shock, I see Kevin hooking up with his best friend. And when I confronted him about it, he was like, no, like, I swear I'm straight, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, bro, why are you lying to me? Like, there's no reason to lie anymore. I caught you. So at that point, I literally just left his house and I blocked him, and I even begged my parents to let me move schools because I was so embarrassed. And from now on, I learned to not trust guys who are too close to their friends. Like, any guy who chooses their friend over me now is sus. Storytime about how I almost got kidnapped at a grocery store. So a little background information, I was 16 and it was during the summertime. And I was super excited because I had just got my license. But my parents had this idea that if they made me drive around and do all their errands, that I would be a better driver. So I was pretty much like their bitch. Anyway, so the one night my mom wanted to make this recipe that she saw on TikTok. And she didn't have the right seasonings for it. So who did she tell to go to the store? Yours truly, me. And on Sundays, the mini market that was in our town would close at 4 o'clock. So I had to drive like 30 minutes away to the nearest Target. And when I got there, I had to park in the back because they had like 10 handicap spaces up front, another 10 for when you sit there and they bring your shit out to you, and another 5 whenever you're picking something up that you already ordered. But in all honesty, that didn't bother me because I had never heard about any girls getting trafficked at a grocery store. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I almost got kidnapped at a grocery store. So like I said, I parked all the way in the back of the parking lot. I mean, okay, not all the way in the back, but I was damn near close. So I go in and I'm not too familiar with this Target. I've only been here a few times because the mini market in my hometown is usually the one that I go to. So I'm looking around and I realize that there's this little girl following me. But it seemed like she was more like keeping an eye on me. Like she would stand like 20 feet behind me, but just like stare at me, you know, peek through the aisles. And she did that for like 10 minutes. But whenever I finally went up to the checkout, she was gone. And this woman came up to me. She was like, oh my gosh, have you seen my daughter? She was running around the store. I don't know where she is. So I described the little girl to her that I saw. And she was like, yeah, that's her. I can't find her. Will you please help me look for her? And I didn't have the time for this because my parents were going to wring my neck. But I said, Part 3 about how I was almost kidnapped at a grocery store. So like I said, she asked me to help look for her daughter, and I was like, I'm gonna go tell a Target employee, and she was like, no, don't worry, they're all already looking, they have security all over the place. And she was like, will you help me check the parking lot because I don't know if she left. She was like, I've been having them look for the past 10 minutes. So I didn't think anything of this because I didn't think that some lady would try to kidnap me. So I went into the parking lot with her and I'm like, okay, where do you think she would have went? Like, did you drive here? Did she maybe go to the car? And she was like, no, we live like 5 minutes down the road. Do you think that we could get in your car and drive around? And I said, yeah, because I thought that it would speed up the process. And my dad's truck was really high off the ground. So while we're walking, I'm like, I think someone's under my car. And she was like, what? No, it's probably just the shadow. And I'm like, no, there's someone under my car. So I turn around to walk back into the store and she starts like pulling my arm towards my car. So an employee called the police whenever I went in there, and long story short, they were trying to kidnap me. Storytime about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So a little background information, I was 18 and it was the summer before my freshman year in college. And it was towards the end of the summer, so I decided that I wanted to take a vacation with a few of my girlfriends before we all went off to the different colleges that we were going to. And I have a lot of pets. I have 4 hamsters, 2 snakes, a tarantula, 2 birds, and 1 fish. So I asked her if she could watch all of them. She said yeah, so I wrote her out a schedule of when they need to be fed. And I wasn't even going to be gone a week, so it would be pretty easy because I already cleaned all their tanks and everything like that. And I wasn't worried at all because I trusted my sister. She had 2 dogs and a cat, so I thought she was going to be fine. I called her the first 2 days. Everything seemed to be going well. And I called her on the 4th day and she didn't answer the phone. So I called my mom, asked her if she could get a hold of her. And my mom said that she spent the 2 days at her boyfriend's house, like for part 2. Part 2 about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So like I said, I called my mom asking if she could get a hold of her, and she said that she spent the last 2 days at her boyfriend's house. And the worst part was, my sister was the only one with a key to my apartment. So my sister calls me the next day and she's like, hey, sorry, like I was at my boyfriend's house. And I was like, who fed the animals? And she was like, well, I just put enough in their cages so that way they would be fine for like 3 days. And she was like, don't worry, I'll sleep over there tonight to make sure they're okay. So I'm like having a fucking panic attack right now. Anyways, so fast forward, I get home early in the morning and my sister's sleeping on the couch, but my sister brought over her animals too. So I wake my sister up and I'm like, hey, like, how are all the animals? She's like, oh, they're fine. And then we walk into the kitchen and the fucking bird cage is open and my birds are missing and her cats are nowhere to be found. So now I'm freaking the fuck out. So then I go to check on the rest of my animals, like for part 3. Part 3 about why I will never let my sister pet sit for me ever again. So like I said, we walk into the kitchen and the bird cage is open and my birds are nowhere to be found and neither is her cat. So at that point, I run to check on all of my other animals. Thankfully, the snakes were fine, so I go to check on my tarantula and he's missing. So now I grabbed my sister's dogs, locked them in my room, and I went to go check on my hamsters. Yeah, she forgot to feed them the whole week, because one of them ate the other one. So at this point, I'm having like a mental fucking breakdown. And I'm moving all the furniture in the living room and everything like that. And we lift up the couch and we see her cat bolt out from under the couch. After that, I look under the couch and my bird is literally torn into pieces under the fucking couch. A few days later, she texted me and she was like, hey, like, I feel so bad. Like, let me buy you a new bird and a new tarantula. And to this day, 2 years later, I still don't know what happened to them. Okay, so story time about how my girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend. Come on, ladies. It's not supposed to be us. This is unacceptable. Okay, so a little background information. I was 17 and in 9th grade. Now, I also lived on my own because when I came out to my parents, they pretty much just kicked me to the curb whenever I was in 7th grade. But here's the thing, right? My girlfriend and my best friend had a hate-hate relationship. Like, they could not fucking stand each other. So I thought. Anyways, they would fight about who would get to spend time with me on what days. It was ridiculous. I mean, other than that though, everything was good. Up until there was some very sus activity going on. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I did low-key feel like my girlfriend was cheating on me because of the very obvious red flags that I just so happened to ignore, per usual. Anyways, sign number 1 should have been the fact that every time she was on her phone, she would make sure that her brightness was all the way down and she would always kind of, you know, turn it away from me whenever I would, you know, be next to her. Well, now on to my best friend. All of a sudden, she has everybody and their mother trying to make plans for her and she has no time for me at all. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys can call me dumb for this one.
This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
I was over my girlfriend's house the one day and she has this one sweatshirt that she really likes. I really like it too. So I go to grab it and it's not there and I ask her where it is and she's like, oh, my sister must have took it on vacation with her. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I brush it off. Well, a few days later, I go over to my best friend's house and she comes and opens the door and y'all already know, she's wearing the sweatshirt.
Oh my god! Wow!
But you know, because her and my girlfriend hated each other so much, I believed her when she told me that it was her boyfriend's.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is the part where it kind of seems like I'm intentionally being delusional.
Too damn bad!
So the one day I go over to my girlfriend's house and I look over by her closet and I see this weird looking case on the ground. Now, my best friend would wear fake lashes, okay? And she had a case that she would put them in and she wrote her initials on the bottom. So I go over there, I grab it and I'm like, what's this? And she's like, I don't know. And then I'm like, I didn't know you wear lashes. And then she goes, I don't, they're probably yours. Like, girl, I think I would know if these are mine. Anyways, I turn the case over and what do you know? It is my best friend's initials. But They're super faded. Well, I would say what finally snapped me out of that fucking delusion that I was in was the one day whenever my girlfriend came over to my house and she had just got done with basketball practice. So she went to go and take a shower. I took it upon myself to go through her phone. Like, I was tired of playing these games with her because Girly was acting sus and I had to figure out what the was going on. Well, good thing I did, because the shit that I found, whew, when I went through her phone, I saw that her and my best friend had been sexting each other, you know, sending nudes and everything else. So I took screenshots of everything, and I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I am that bitch who's so fucking extra. Like, do not play with me, please do not. So with that being said, you guys want to know what I did? Did I confront them about it? No. Did I send the videos and pictures of them to their parents? No. Instead, I printed out over 100 packets with all of these pictures and text messages, and I stapled them all together very neatly, and then I handed them out to the whole school. And then I gave them to their parents. Because you guys want to be messy, we can be messy.
You know, I had to double it.
Obviously, after this, I break up with Ashley. I don't even think I really needed to break up with her at that point. I think that it was already implied that that's what was happening. I haven't seen either of them since that whole situation. Oh, and I also heard that they got into a ton of trouble with their parents. Also, I kind of screwed up Ashley's social life. Not kind of, I did. Because Ashley was one of those people that everybody liked, but I guess not anymore. Karma's a bitch, but I'm worse. So next time you want to play games, play with your mama, not me.